All right. Well, hello, and greetings, friends. Welcome again to another fantastic episode of the Black Entrepreneurs Institute show. We've got an amazing show planned for you today. Let me tell you, I am beyond excited. For those of you that don't know me, I am Damian Johnson, and I am joined by my two business partners and friends, Mr. Cedric LaFleur and
Hello.
Angela Hooper Minifield. How are y'all doing?
Uh, Excellent, excellent. Couldn't be better if it were two of me.
I love that. So guys, look, can you believe that March is here? I mean, after this horrible winter season that we've just gone through, I know that many of our viewers, and certainly I am too, we are ready to head into spring. But you know what I was thinking about? This represents the last month of the first quarter. And so as we are entering into this last month of the first quarter, I think it's a good time to kind of take inventory and reflect on our goals and review plans and just to kind of gauge, if we're on track or if we need to make a mid-course correction. So I want to start off the show by just asking you all, what are some strategies or tools or processes that you use in your business to either keep you on target or to help you know when you need to make some adjustments?
So that's a really good question, Damien. So one of the things that I try to do to keep me focused is, of course, you guys know that all of us as founders, including Dr. Nick, we've all studied Think and Grow Rich. We've actually studied it with Paul. We've studied it with our clients. We're currently within our own program, our Emerald program, studying Think and Grow Rich, a Black choice. But in the desire part of the book, right, Napoleon Hill talks about getting clear on what that is and then saying it to yourself with regularity. And Cedric talks about, what's on his wall or what's on his door. But those are some of the little things seem like they make a big deal of difference. They really make a big difference. And so for me, so it's on my phone, so it's with me all the time. I actually put it in my pillowcase, so I sleep on my desires. But just reading it out loud and saying it to myself every day, twice a day, it really keeps me focused. And when I think about like the first thing in the morning, it sets the attention. Like, even though I know what's on my calendar, what's the intention? And so that's one of the things that really helps me. And then, of course, I try to always go big. You know the saying, right? Go big or go home. So even if I miss, I still can feel good. So I don't have to do as much readjusting, because if I hit that goal to some degree, it's already been a win.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, you're absolutely right, Angela, with everything that you said there. And, really the only thing I would add to what she's saying, and this is part of what I do, is if it's not on my calendar, it's not going to happen. It's just that simple, right? Now, I also say systems and processes for everything, right? So I have a system and a process for everything. First of all, my calendar is my system, right? That's going to keep me on track. In the movie Think and Grow Rich, there's a gentleman there talks about daily standards, right? So for me, those daily standards is my calendar, my calendars app, and then my notes app. Those three things right there keep me organized and on track with everything that I'm going to do each day. It keeps me on track for when products are going to launch, the timelines, the launch date, the timeline, and then all the things that need to go in, that need to happen along that journey. But systems and processes is really what keeps me on track and keeps me stable.
Yeah, I love that. Systems and processes and having your desire statement. That's some great advice. Guys, if you're watching, you should be writing that down. There was such goodness, and even though they seem simple, those are things that will move the needle in your business. So make sure you're taking a note of that. So, one of the things I'm excited about is that last week we wrapped up our third cohort of the BEI Business Bootcamp for minority entrepreneurs. And so they actually survived the entire 8 weeks. And later this week on Thursday, we're going to have our graduation celebration. So Angela and Cedric, when you think about the boot camp and this particular group of entrepreneurs, what stands out in your mind?
Yeah, I'm going to remember how interactive this group is. This group had a lot of interaction, and I try not to call out names, but I'm going to remember Dr. Helen Tinsley, right? She's just very engaging and interactive. You know that she's engrossed in her business because she can tell you all the details about her business, right? And that's what we want to see, and that's what we love. But I'm also going to remember the sales and negotiation simulation sessions. That I always remember those. We're going to talk about a little bit about that a little bit later, but that's what I'm going to remember the most.
So for me, I think it's like your kids right now. Ideally, some people only have one, but maybe they have multiple grandkids, whatever. And while you love them all, you love them for different reasons because they're unique and no two are the same. Mm-hmm. That's what I think I find about, as I think back on the boot camp and specifically number 3, it was like our third baby, but it was a different one. It was unlike number 1 and number 2. And I think the biggest thing that I got out of it was that it doesn't matter what type of business you're in. I mean, we got people who sell vending machines, right? Like, it doesn't matter what kind of business you're in. You need to understand the core foundations and the skills, characteristics, and attributes that lead to successful entrepreneurship. And so what we're finding is we're able to widen our net and we're able to reach people. And some of the people in this boot camp were like, this was literally their second career, as in they'd retired from 2 different things. And I just love it because sometimes you think, oh, I'm too old to start a business. No, we're not. So yeah, it's been awesome.
Yeah. That's great. I think for me, one of the things that I most enjoyed is seeing some of the limiting beliefs begin to fall away and to see them taking action and getting results and starting to pick up traction. I always love to see how people can come in with a certain mindset, and over the process of the 8 weeks to watch that mindset transform to confidence, competence, and to see them get clarity and start to move the needle. You like how I just gave you those 3 C's?
Yeah. Now, Jamie, before we go on, so Angela said these are like your babies, right? So this is baby number 3, right? Wait till we get to boot camp number 20. So you're gonna have baby number 20.
Hey, long as they're figurative babies, I can take them.
So as long as they're not any real babies, huh? Oh man, you guys are funny. So listen, it's time for us to get into our show, and we've got an amazing guest. So today's guest is Mr. Gregory Minott, and I'm going to go ahead and bring Gregory on screen right now. So Gregory, welcome. Glad that you're here, my friend. And so I'm so glad you said yes. And when I asked you, you didn't hesitate. You said yes right away. But let me tell you guys why I am so excited about having Gregory with us today. It is not just because we come from the same country or come from the same town, but we actually went to the same early childhood school, the same school, and the same high school. And by the way, I'm going to tell you right now, one of the conditions to Gregory coming here is that I made him agree not to share any of the backstory on my life with you all. I know he's got some dirt, and I made him promise not to share any of that because Lord knows I have come a mighty, mighty long way. But that's not really the reason.
A little cash will fix all of that.
Hey, Cedric, I just figured it was for the BEI After Dark show. That's all.
Exactly.
See, Gregory's integrity, so I know he cannot be bought, right, Gregory?
That's right.
So listen, the real reason though, I say that in jest, but the real reason I'm excited is that, as you all will come to learn during the process of the interview, that Gregory is truly a trailblazer in his industry. So let me give you the proper bio so we can actually get into the conversation, right? So Gregory Minott is originally from Mandeville, Jamaica. He moved to the US in 1999 and earned a dual master's degree in architecture and infrastructure planning at the New Jersey Institute of Technology. Prior to founding his company, which is DREAM Collaborative, Gregory was the project architect for a number of award-winning building and urban renewal projects while working at the Boston-based firm Elkus Manfredi Architects. Now, in 2010, Gregory received the American Institute of Architects National Young Architects Award. So this is an award where he was specifically recognized for making significant contributions to more livable communities, better connected neighborhoods, and more durable and sustainable urban environments. And so listen, and it gets even better because currently Gregory serves on the board of directors at the Boston Society for Architecture, and he is the 2021 president, which, if I'm not mistaken, that was a recent award or a recent appointment. So very, very impressive. He's also a member of the board of trustees for the Boston Architectural College and Hearth, Inc. And he has been appointed to the Urban Land Institute Boston Housing and Economic Development Council. Greg has been invited to speak on issues around design, sustainability, urban development, and he enjoys participating in community engagement events. Now, there's a lot more I could say about Gregory, but here's what I will say. As long as I have known him for years and years and years, I know him to be a person of integrity. I know him to be a man of faith. He is an amazing single dad to his two boys, and I am absolutely proud to call him my friend. So, ladies and gentlemen, and our audience watching all around the world, please help me welcome Mr. Gregory Minott.
Awesome.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that very kind introduction, Damon. But it's a pleasure to be with you, Cedric and Angela. So thank you for having me today.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited. Just before we get into the questions, so Gregory, I'm in Newark. So NJIT immediately. I was like, okay, that's in Newark.
Okay.
It's literally right down the street from me.
That's terrific.
Awesome. So look, I got to tell you, Gregory, as a fellow Jamaican, really, really happy that you're here. And so, I want us to learn from you today because you've done some amazing work and you had an incredible entrepreneurial journey. So why don't you just start by telling us a little bit about yourself and specifically how and why you began your entrepreneurial journey. And as a part of that, I want you to share with us some perspective on the scope of your business and the services that you provide.
Absolutely. No, it's a pleasure to jump in on that. Where do I start? So as you mentioned, Damon, so I'm from Jamaica, originally from Mandeville. It was a great place to grow up. But even before I get there, sorry, hope you're gonna edit this. Let me start in the reverse order. So currently I run DREAM Collaborative, which is a 22-person architectural firm in Boston. And we provide architectural services to commercial scale developers that are doing, big buildings, big office buildings, residential buildings, and so on. We also have a real estate development company as part of our business that actually we self-perform some of that development work. So that's current day. And you asked about the journey to get here. And, like you said, we grew up in Jamaica, in Mandeville specifically, and spent my summers doing what most kids do during the summer. For me, it was about riding my bike around my neighborhood. And as you probably can remember, in Jamaica, and especially in Mandeville, they got some huge houses there. Yeah. Expatriates would come back and build these huge houses over a number of years. Some of them went unfinished for years, and it was just there on an open piece of land that you could just walk into the house as it was unfinished. And for me as a kid, that was a time of just imagination, and I would ride my bike through these neighborhoods and go inside these buildings and imagine what they would be like when they were completed.
Mm-hmm.
So, added to that, my parents built a house when I was just getting to high school. My dad was an engineer and my mom was a real estate broker. So between the two of them, and that construction project, it really sparked my interest in design. Um, and when my dad left his full-time job, he created a construction and real estate company with my mom. And then they started to do buildings and houses all over Mandeville. So fast forward a little bit towards the end of my high school career and going into college, I got a call from my dad one day, and he had a friend that was a bank manager in Mandeville. And he said he had a small project he wanted to fix up and renovate his bank branch. And my dad called me and asked me if I'd be willing to help with that project. And, as a 17-year-old kid, I was like, what are you talking about? I don't know how to do that. But, he really had confidence in me and, convinced the bank manager to give me a shot. And that really was my first project. Although I didn't go on to start my own company for years later, it at least helped me to think about what was possible and that I could actually someday do this and someday do this as a business. And that's what I went on to do.
Wow, good stuff.
Wow. You know what I one of the things that with the name of your company, right? Dream Collaborative, right? I really love the name because we always talk about dreaming big, right? So, what was the motivation behind Dream Collaborative? That meaning that name, right?
Yeah. Well, it's a good question, Cedric. So when I started the company, I was living in Massachusetts. I was working at as was said in the intro, Elkus Manfredi Architects, and I used to live, I don't know, probably 60 miles outside of the city. So I'd have a long commute in on the train every morning. And that time I spent, dreaming, like literally dreaming about my future as I was working at that company. And it was, somewhere along around 2007 or so, I really started to feel that it was coming to the time when I was supposed to launch my company. And I was thinking about names. And just for context, most of the names of architectural firms, they're named after the founders, such as the Elkus and Manfredi. It's for the two founders of that company. But here I am, this young guy from Jamaica in Boston. Nobody knows me, so they wouldn't even know what my name. It wouldn't have any significance to them. So I said, well, I have to come up with a name that is gonna, inspire some kind of a vision. And I'm a dreamer by nature. And I also have I'm very detail oriented as well, because DREAM actually stands for something. It stands for Development, Real Estate, Architecture, and Management, which that's the eventual vision of the company, is to be a vertically integrated development, real estate, and architecture management company. So it's an acronym for those for what we will eventually be someday. So between dream being the literal imagination and dreaming, and collaborative, which is sort of my nature and how we problem solve by getting people together around ideas to come up with and execute solutions. So I put the two together and it became DREAM Collaborative.
Okay, I like it. I like that.
Yeah. I do too. I love it. We've gotten real familiar with acronyms and acrostics, excuse me, over the last few months as well. So I love it, love it, love it. So let me ask you this question. You know, one of the things that we find and we talk to entrepreneurs quite a bit about is their brand identity and message. So exactly how did you create that for the DREAM Collaborative? And the segue from that is, what tips would you share with other entrepreneurs to help them create their brand identity and message?
Yeah, no, thanks for that, Angela. So for us, it really was about staying on mission. So our mission really has a lot to do with, you know, creating generational wealth in communities, creating buildings and public spaces that foster inclusion, which sort of means that we're not for everybody, right? You know, we're not gonna necessarily attract the uber luxury market, but that's okay because that's not who we are. So we're very clear in the beginning about who we were, and then we just stuck to that, who we were trying to serve, and then that, you know, we wrapped our brand message and everything around that mission and aligned, you know, where do we market, you know, where do we show up, what media outlets, is all dictated by the audience that we're trying to reach. So that's what I'd say to anybody that is thinking about their brand, is really to clarify your mission. Just be, I'm very laser focused on that. And don't try to be everything to everybody, because you'll be, you know, nothing to a lot of people. So, so that's what I'd say there. And yeah, just get some good folks around that, and get some great advocates for your brand, folks that believe in you and champion your brand because they believe in your mission.
Yeah, you know, one of the things he just said, Angela, I'm sorry. One of the things he just said that I know you and Dr. Nick always talk about is finding that niche, right? And I love what you said to the audience. And audience, I got to make sure you pick it up. Don't try to be a jack of all trades. I'm sorry, Angela, go ahead.
No, you're right on point. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, yep, that's one of the things we try to help people see. And pretty much everybody who joins the boot camp, or even when I regular coaching clients, I'm like, who's your audience, or who's your target client? Everybody.
Which is exactly why they end up not having clients to begin with, you know. Right. So, you know, one of the things that I love to hear about Gregory, because for most entrepreneurs, they start off, generally speaking, in some sort of a corporate job, and then there comes a time when they intentionally make a decision to make a shift, right? So so many entrepreneurs have a turning point. So I want you to talk to us about your turning point when you move from corporate to entrepreneurship. And then as a follow-up to that part, I want you to talk about what were some of the most challenging aspects of making that transition, because it's not always an easy transition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. It's not an easy transition. And yeah, for me, what I didn't appreciate as much then, although I knew it as I was going through the process, because as you can imagine, you know, this sort of entrepreneurial bug got planted in me really early because of the experiences in my first commission and all of that. But this was probably some 10, 12 years later before I actually launched out to the company. So I was working for other people that whole time. And, you know, so of course, at times I would get anxious, like, oh boy, you know, I really want to get this started right now. But the thing about it is where I landed, I got some great experience working for for folks. And years later, I would realize that that experience was really the foundation that was going to help me to, it was a bridge to help me to actually start my own company one day. But while I was in that job, I mean, I owned that job. I mean, I showed up at 7 o'clock. You know, I left that, you know, after everybody was gone. You know, me and the founder would be some of the first people in the office, and I owned it like it was my business. And you know, I think that really helped me to not just say, "Oh, I was just biding my time." And as a result, years later, those same relationships is what would help me to launch my company. And some of the very same people that I met at that job would eventually end up at Dream Collaborative. One of them, my business partner, and then others are some of the folks that are in the management team. I didn't poach them. Let me just make that clear. But you know, because of the way that we worked and just the relationships, you know, eventually life crossed again years later, and we ended up together. But it wasn't an easy transition. At some point, I had to make the decision to sort of, you know, to leave. And, you know, one of the things that I did at the time, I did it for sort of a personal reason as well as professional. My first was born at the time. And, you know, it was a good time after I'd gotten the Young Architects Award and I'd, you know, achieved some success. You know, I felt like it was time to just take a step back and evaluate what my next chapter would be. So, so that's what I did. And I had some support from family during the transition. I took on a few small clients. You know, there was a church that I did a small project for and different things. And then, you know, one client after the other, then it started to grow. I also I should make this important point that during this time, I discussed my intentions with my employer at a certain point. And you have to sort of know the relationships you have there. And they were very supportive of me. And, you know, they actually allowed me to do some part-time work with them while I set up the business and things like that. So, I had a lot of support, but I was very transparent about my intentions, which I think helped overall.
Wow. I think that's so good, right? Because I think so many times we, you know, people who want to start their business, they're running from their job. And what you basically said that when you were working in your job, you owned it, you got in early, you stayed late, you served hard, you maintained integrity with your employer, and they actually helped you make the transition. I think that's a great nugget, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they recommended me for some of the boards that you mentioned. They, you know, were some of my references for clients that I was trying to get. So yeah, I didn't burn any bridges. You know, and those relationships years later, I would end up partnering with my old boss on contracts. So I didn't know that then that what would happen, but that's what happened. So
Wow. So, how do you? Well, let me ask it a different way. As an architect and as a real estate development firm, right? You operate in this space with, you know, very large, well capitalized companies. How are you able to define and carve out that niche space for yourself?
yeah, no, that's a great question. And we, you know, decided very early on that it is a crowded landscape. And we found a gap, I would say, in the market where there was a particular neighborhood in Boston that wasn't really well served by high quality design or by a very sort of social-minded development approach.
Mm.
So realizing that there was a gap in the market, it wasn't well served, and that we had this unique skill set that was honed over many years, we looked first to go into that market and develop relationships with people there, with community members, with other developers. And over time, we were able to get the trust of the community and be able to really have folks take notice of us, because we're looking at doing things differently. The city started to take notice. The mayor started to notice. And all of that, that momentum that we got just allowed us, again, as we stayed on mission, stayed on message, and focused in on an area where we had a strong competitive advantage, because it was also in a predominantly Black neighborhood as well. And so we had a competitive advantage with more of our competitors weren't Black, didn't have the cultural competencies to go into that neighborhood. So we stayed on point with our competitive advantage. And then over time, we've sort of been able to expand beyond that geography and start to serve other neighborhoods that are more, diverse and have different economics behind them. But we've also stayed focused on where we started as well.
That's impressive. It even speaks to some of the same things we're trying to accomplish, right, with BEI, understanding that there are a lot of people, in our communities that want to serve our communities, but don't have some of those competencies built up yet. So how can we support that? So I really love that mission and how you did that.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you this. What has been one of your greatest learns during your entrepreneurial journey?
Wow, one of my greatest learns. Yeah, I would say one of the things as an entrepreneur, because you find yourself, I would say, alone a lot, meaning that it is sometimes a lonely journey, meaning that folks are coming to you all the time for a lot of time for answers. You're trying to figure out what's next, the vision, all of that. But one of the things that I realized is that I had an awesome team that was willing to help in ways that I just had not realized. And it was because you have that kind of, not that, I'm not willing to collaborate, but you end up in this space where, again, you're so focused on trying to come up with all the answers that you don't realize that you're not a company of one. You have your team isn't just there to do the work. They're here to help you build, and empowering them is a skill that didn't come naturally to me. It was a blind spot, and I had to really learn to slow down, listen to their input, and they had some of the best ideas, quite frankly, and really harness those and empower them. So I think that was one of the things that doesn't come naturally, I think, for a lot of entrepreneurs. But it's one that I had to hone, the listening and being able to take input from my team. I think I could have avoided some missteps if I had listened a little bit more.
That's great insight. So often entrepreneurs are exactly as you described, people who are experts or that tactician, right? So you were a great architect, but then when the team and the business comes, it's like, oh, wait a minute, some of my other skills that maybe I haven't developed as well are required of me. And I think that's a common journey, but thank you so much for that transparency.
Absolutely.
So when you think about all the things that you've done and all the things that you are planning to do in the future, what do you say is one thing that you say, if I could just clear everything off my plate, what is this one thing that I would just do? And it could be in your business or it could be outside of your business.
What is the one thing I would do? Wow, that's a tough one. I think
Dream collaboration, right?
Yeah, that's right. I think if I had to clear some stuff off my plate, there's some real pressing issues that I'd love to spend more time on, and it's one of the reasons that I got a start to the business. There's some real societal issues that we're facing today, and I think we're uniquely positioned to solve those in terms of housing, for example, housing costs, and really tackling that issues of gentrification. You go into a lot of neighborhoods, folks that have been there for years, now they're getting pushed out. And really go deep into those issues, which we're doing as part of our mission anyway. But as a business, we also, we have a lot of hats and things to balance, right? So, but we do our best, and I would spend some time there, some more. Personally, I'd love to travel some more, maybe after this COVID COVID wraps up or isn't such an issue. Love to travel more, because I think in my years coming up as an architect, that was one of the things that really opened my eyes, is really seeing how different people think and how different people approach problems in different countries, different cultures. I mean, that's something that's at the DNA of Dream, and why we have such a diverse company, is to sort of, get a little bit of that from every person. But I also love to travel. I think, that breeds innovation, is really getting multiple perspectives from different people and learning from different cultures.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm glad you're able to answer that question. So I like that.
So Gregory, let me ask you this. Like when you think about your journey, right? Obviously, you're the managing principal of your firm. You've got 22 people. You're running multi-million-dollar projects. What strategies do you use to keep you focused and productive in just the day-to-day grind? Because you've got all kinds of people that need your attention, decisions you have to make. But how do you maintain that focus to keep growing the company with all of the other responsibilities that you have?
Yeah, great question. So what I do really is, and I have to learn this, is first of all, take care of myself. If I'm not doing that, I'm not good to a lot of people, including myself, my family. And so I really prioritize that, both physically and spiritually. I make sure to get, my 8 hours of sleep. Um, you know, you hear a lot of stories about entrepreneurs burning the candle at both ends, and it sounds like a good soundbite, but it really doesn't work. um, you're not your best, you don't get your best ideas, and it's just simply not worth it to do that. And my faith is a big part of who I am. So I spend a lot of time I serving at church, and quiet time in the mornings, because there's so much noise today. There's you pick up your phone, and there's every minute there's like a ping from Slack or text message or something like that. And so I just cherish that quiet time in the morning. I spend 1 hour every morning, at least most mornings. I try, not every morning, to have that time where I can actually just sit quietly and listen, and process all of the things that are going on in the day, and journal. It helps me to organize my thoughts, and I get some of my best ideas during that time. and I can help the team to answer questions or strategies that we're stuck on. I get to all that during that time. The other thing that I do, so that's the physical and the spiritual part. The other thing that I do is, I surround myself with some good people, both on the personal side as the professional side. On the personal side, folks like yourself, Damon, and others, really just good people that, help to encourage you, give you a different perspective or whatever it is that you're challenged with, help you to process, right? Folks that can speak faith into your life and encouragement. It's really important because you get hit with a lot as an entrepreneur, as most entrepreneurs know. It's a very busy life, and there's a lot of demands on your time. And it's good to have those people that are just pouring into your life, trusted sort of inner circle, that folks that you can trust and you can bring issues to and help you to process. I think that's really, really important. And again, I have a great team that surrounds me, helps me to keep, organized and keep things going. And, I'd also say the other thing that keeps me going is spending time with my family. I mean, my kids are just, they bring a lot of joy into my life. And, I really prioritize that time with them, even though the phone's ringing and the emails demanding, you can't get that time back with your family. And so, I make sure I spend a decent amount of quality time without the interruptions of this. This is put on silent. I tell my team, this is my time, get me afterwards. And really focus on getting away with them. It doesn't have to be anything big, it could be something small too, that we do. But that helps me to stay grounded and stay focused on what's important. So
that's nice. So this question came to mind when you told Cedric that you would travel. I know when I travel, I love to look at buildings and architecture and things like that. So when you're in traveling mode, are you that person too as an architect? Are you looking at how buildings are designed, and what kinds of things excite you about architecture of other people?
Yeah, no, that's exactly me. I'm the one that sort of look with my head up in the sky, looking at the buildings around me and not looking at where I'm going. That's that's me, all right. I just, buildings represent so much about society, culture, and it's so unique and different to every place that you go. And you can learn a lot about people and their culture by the types of buildings that they build and how they build them. And I really just appreciate that, about how much our lives is shaped by the built environment around us, and how we interact with others. In Italy, the piazza is the place where you meet your neighbors, and it's a very public and social place, and it's very different from other places that don't have that. But I enjoy learning about those different types of spaces and places. I'm bringing them back to the work that we're doing here in the U.S. and trying to, make a better place that reflects those cultures.
Nice. So before we go, of course, there may be people who are watching this show that want to know, how do they stay connected with you, maybe follow your work, or just more information about you?
Absolutely. So yeah, I can be reached by email, gminott@dreamcollaborative.com. Our website is dreamcollaborative.com. And then we're on all the social media channels, LinkedIn, Instagram. You can search for us and follow us. But always looking to help a fellow entrepreneur on their journey. So feel free to reach out, and if I can offer any further insights or just any encouragement, happy to do it, because there've been others that have helped me along my journey, and I think that's an important part about all of this, is just that network.
Thank you so much. And again, on behalf of all the founders of the Black Entrepreneurs, it's truly been an honor and a privilege to learn more about you, your passion, and just to hear entrepreneurship in a different way than I think sometimes we think about it.
Absolutely. No, it was my pleasure. And thank you for having me. It's been truly a joy.
And so after we finish taping the show, though, Cedric and I do want to find out just a couple of those stories about Damien. Just give us a few, right? We don't need a lot. We may need it for negotiation leverage or something. You never know.
Understood. All right.
Yeah.
I don't want to get Damien too nervous now.
I'm sweating right now.
Next time I go to Boston for a Celtics game, I'm gonna call you and say, "Hey, let's go to a game, and then we can talk about Damien, and I can get some information."
Yeah.
No, but seriously, thanks for being here, Greg. It was great having you. You really dropped some real gold. That's some practical things that I think would help a lot of our people learn and grow and build their business. Because one of the things about Black Entrepreneurs Institute is that we exist to help entrepreneurs, Black and minority entrepreneurs specifically, elevate their mindset and their money. And I think some of the things that you shared were really, really practical that I think hit home, that we can all use and leverage and grow our business. So I appreciate you, my brother.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure.
And so speaking of elevating mindset and money, we just want to remind our audience and those of you who know entrepreneurs who are looking to take their business to the next level. And what we also know is that business growth is individualized. So the growth for one business is not indicative of a growth for another. But what we can tell you is, for those of you who are serious, that's one of the caveats, and dedicated to growing your business, we invite you and we welcome you to enroll into our next boot camp. It actually starts in a month. It's hard to believe that we are about to begin cohort number 4, or as Cedric said earlier, my 4th baby, right? So if you want to be a part of cohort number 4, again, looking to take the rest of 2021 to places your business has never been before, or maybe you just have an idea and you need to navigate. How do I even get started? How do I figure out my niche? We heard Gregory speak about that. This is something that we can do. We can help you with that in the Black Entrepreneurs Institute Bootcamp. So if you'll catch the link in the comments, that is where you can enroll. But our next bootcamp starts April 6th. And again, if not for you, then maybe you have entrepreneurs in your life that's a gift that you can extend to them by introducing them to our body of work. The other thing I want to share is, I'm sorry, Cedric, you can share really quickly the practical application component of our bootcamp.
Yeah, simulation and practical application is an important part of the journey that we help entrepreneurs experience when they come. You can go to any training, any webinar, any boot camp, and get a lot of information, right? And we're going to give you a lot of information, but it's not just the giving of the information. It's then the utility of using the information in a practical way, by demonstrating it, and we call sales simulation, negotiation simulation. That's really where we get to measure how much they retained in the information that we provide. So if you want to take your business to the next level and you want to better understand how to use some of the tools we give you, then you need to be in this boot camp, because you're going to use them. I was going to say we're going to make you use them, but you're going to use them. All right. You're going to get trained on Tuesday night, and on Thursday night, you're going to apply those principles in your business. And that's the thing, in your business.
Awesome. So guys, we want to thank you for joining us tonight, and be sure to stay tuned for the Empowered Living Candle is coming up next in about 30 minutes, where we hold a space for peace, love, and hope. Want to thank Paul for giving us the space to be on this platform, and to our distinguished guest, Gregory, thanks for being here, my friend. Glad you were here. And thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Remember, the replay is on Sunday. Bye for now.
Thank you. Take care.